You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. It's January the 17th, 2023, and we're live here coming to you from paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You said 2023.
Did I say 2023? Oh, look at that. Ah. Jeez. I got it right. I hope I got it right on the other shows.
Because I put a post up. This is my first show of 2024 because last week I had to work. So I wasn't able to come on to the first show of the year with a recap. But I'm here this week, and this is my first show of 2024 with you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I thought you were sitting there shaking your head because you couldn't hear me. I thought, okay, was my audio off?
No. I'm sorry. I have to correct you. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
You know what? I have to write it every day because I do like a cash out every night, so it's always got to be like date with 2020, and so I just it's just kind of coming to me. It's my 50. I'm gonna be 54 in like less than 5 weeks. I'm getting
it's not very often that it used to be when I was working all that stuff. You're writing the date every day, multiple times a day. Sometimes now I don't even know whether it's Thursday or Friday. So,
well, that happens to me too because I work so much now that everybody goes like you working, but in reality, I'm working less than 40 hours a week, even though I'm working 6 days a week. I'm only working technically 37 hours a week because I only work 6 hours a day, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's technically not even full time.
It's just 36 hours, Yeah,
and
they still consider that full time.
I think they do consider 36 hours full time. Yes.
Yeah.
I get the 30. I get the 37 because I work the Wednesday day shift, which is 7 hours instead of 6. So.
Yeah. All right. So tonight during the broadcast, what we're going to do is we're going to review 2023.
Right?
I must have had that on my mind or something.
That could be because we are reviewing shows from 2023. So
correct. Yes.
That would be why you probably muddled through that because I would have probably done the same thing.
Now, as I told everybody last week during the broadcast and before the broadcast, is basically what I've done is I went through the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, and I just looked at the ones, the higher numbers, and I come up with 10 shows that had the higher numbers. Now, it's not an exact science or anything because the fact that not every show is shared the same amount of times. And there's even sometimes not every show got shared due to just sometimes just time restraints or whatever, right? And so it's not exact science, but I went through those ones that had some the higher numbers, and I've taken like 10 minutes out of each interview, which is tough to do, and sometimes it's just convenient and easy. Where at the beginning of most of the shows, I asked them, to tell us a bit about themselves, or, ask that question about have you ever smoked any, when was the first time you smoked any cannabis? So the conversation can go on from quite a bit just from even that early question, and that gives me lots of opportunity to grab some good information and things to share.
And we had some really interesting guests over the last year, and then we've had a few like lulls where it's been tough to get guests, and kind of really figuring out and wondering why. It's because so many people are popping into the legal market, and once you're in the legal market, things
change, and sometimes it's just nice to just for us to have a gap.
But again, like, but now I'm understanding, because I mean, even for my show, like, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
like, why am I having such an issue trying to find people to come on and talk about what they're doing? Well, once you're in that legal realm,
Things change.
they're not
That's what's nice about the news. There's always news.
right. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about re-pivoting, and I'll tell you after. I'm not going to tell you until we discuss it, but I got a new idea. But same thing. Like,
Okay. We can talk about that. We can talk about that after the show.
absolutely.
So what we got going on tonight is I got 5 video clips. They're about 10 minutes each, and we will run them, and we'll have a little discussion beforehand, and we'll have a little discussion after it. And if we have to run late, we have to run a little bit late, just so you know. We have time for that. There is a new show starting on CBG TV tonight. Starts at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
And what show is that?
The Newbie and the Doobie.
Oh, I think we talked about that before.
Yeah. I think so, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're starting tonight.
And who's that again?
Mary Jane Baker and Tim Boyle. Tim is
they were on Al Rap's network too. That's all the same. So yeah.
Yeah. They'll be coming through Al and broadcasting on CBG, just like we come from the Pace Radio Network and we broadcast on CBG TV.
Well,
we're all content providers.
Yep, you bet.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
The more content, the better, because education. And like I said, we're falling behind. Like cannabis, we need to keep going. We got to keep.
We're not done yet. We've both got new projects that we're working on that we want to talk about, but we gotta get on with the show.
I know.
All right. So our first one that I've got here, this video clip, is Byrne. I don't know whether you made it into part way through. Some of these, as I mentioned to you before the broadcast, and should everybody else know, is that some of these interviews, because of where you are working, depending on what time of the year where you're working at, some of the programs or shows you didn't arrive until
I was late.
Right, 15 minutes,
into half an hour, right at the beginning of the shows, because I was working at the garden center, and until I first got kind of established, and then I made arrangements so I would always be off at 5:30 so I could be on time, but that took some time, and then I quit anyway.
Yeah. And so some of them I'm done by myself. Some of them you come in part way through the interview.
I'm late for my own funeral.
Yeah. So the first one's with Byrne. He's a military vet, a long time cannabis patient advocate, big time down in the U.S. Has been involved in many groups. Has started many groups. Patients out of time as well. He's with the Veterans Action Council that runs a broadcast every week on CBG TV called the VAC Roundtable, and they interview patients, as well as doctors, professors, stuff like that, during their roundtables. So Al is involved in that. As I said, he's a military vet. He's got a huge list of credentials when it comes to his experience. I believe I think it was the Army he was in, but I believe he mentions it during the show. So we'll get that started, and we'll talk after it. All right.
Right.
It's time for me to continue the good work that these people told us we were doing, and it's time for me to introduce this evening's guest. Byrne, he's been a cannabis advocate, as I said, for over 30 years. He's been a director at Normal. He's founded organizations that help people like himself, people who are veterans, plus much more. Like he's got a huge list of accomplishments and things that he's been involved with. So let's dig into that. I'd like to welcome my guest for tonight, Byrne, to the Pace Radio Show. G'day, Al. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the invitation, Al. We got 2 Al's here tonight.
It's right. We call that Al squared around here. Well, Al, as I mentioned, you've got quite the list of things that you've been involved with over the years. Why don't you give us just a quick review of some of the things that you've been involved in throughout these years?
Well, my story really started with cannabis back in '67, but I
Wow.
didn't do anything. Yeah, I didn't do anything formal with that involvement until 1983, when I joined with my wife at the time, Mary Lynn, to do a study for NORML about medical use of cannabis by patients. And that led me eventually to be on the board of NORML for 4 or 5 years. I was the co-executive director of NORML for a couple of years, I guess it was, the national secretary for 3 or 4 years. And I left NORML to co-found, again with Marilyn Mathry, Patients at a Time, a 501c3 educational charity with the mission, as we defined it, to educate healthcare professionals and the general U.S. public about the medical uses of cannabis. Now, that we founded that organization in 1995. We didn't pull off the first major education until 5 years later, when Patients at a Time, along with the University of Iowa Medical School and Nursing School, sponsored the first medical cannabis conference in the United States, possibly the world, which was accredited. You know, there's been a lot of conferences where people get up and talk, but this conference was accredited, meaning the American Medical Association and the American Nurses Association authorized educational credits for doctors, nurses, social workers that attended this thing. And so that was Patients at a Time. And that went on very, very successfully for well over a decade. But along the way, I was approached by a partner of mine that I'd worked with at Patients at a Time many times, a veteran named Michael Kravitz. And we're both in Virginia at the time. And Michael and I formed an organization still in existence. It's called Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access. Access being able to use medical cannabis within Veterans Administration health facilities. Again, we're talking, I know you're in Canada, we're talking US here. Only.
Correct,
and,
yeah.
So anyway, we formed in 2007. By 2010, mainly with Michael's work, I was there, but he was really there. The Veterans Administration of the United States of America, the largest health organization in the world, put in writing that cannabis was a medicine and that cannabis should be treated as such by all the employees in medicine that work for the Veterans Administration of the United States, which was a huge deal. Overnight, literally hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of million veterans who wanted to use cannabis now could use cannabis and be treated in veterans facilities. Prior to that, they could not. So it was either you're in or you're out. Now we are in, period. I got a problem with that still, but I'll move on. So that took us 3 years, but we're still, Mike and I, and it's all volunteer, by the way. Patients at a Time, when I was there, was a 100% volunteer organization. Nobody took anything, not anything. Same way with Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access. Every vet that works with us, I mean, it's a big gang of, nobody's the boss, right? All volunteers. And that really works. It appeals to me. because nobody has ever been to say Al Byrne's owned by somebody. Al's Byrne, he takes money from something, and therefore he's got a bias or a prejudice. Never did it. And that's the same thing with our veterans organization. Right now, what we're dealing with is the problem in our states, in the United States, is there's lists. Even if cannabis is legal as medicine in a given state, let us just pick one, Massachusetts. It's legal in Massachusetts to have medical cannabis. But there's a list in Massachusetts, and I don't know what it is, but there's a list. And what that list is, it is what you can use that cannabis for medically. What a doctor or attending physician can say to you, you can use it for this, but you can't use it for that. Well, I got a huge problem with that one. I don't know of any other medical treatment or medical potion or whatever that is decided if I can have it or not by cops and lawyers. Yet that's what these lists are. They're made up by legislators, and that to me is the stupidest thing I've ever run into. But there it is. And these educated lawyers, guys, and they're doing this stupid stuff. Anyway, that's what VMCA still does. Now, I'm also working very well with another volunteer veteran organization. This one is international. We have memberships from Australia and United Kingdom, from Ukraine, Israel, etc. And what it is, it's a bunch of vets, again, volunteers, very skilled in the nuances of the cannabis information, both nationally and internationally. And what we have done is we've got ourselves designated by the United Nations and WHO, World Health Organization, to be a veteran spokesperson on behalf of veterans internationally in relationship to cannabis.
That's huge, yes.
Yeah, it's huge. And I can go on about this international thing, but we've made the United States is in a spot that it's another story. The United States is not responding to its own treaty obligations.
Okay, now did you say what Did you say what the group was that is being recognized?
I'm sorry, I probably didn't. We call ourselves the Veterans Action Council. That would be .org. We're on Facebook, YouTube. If you look for a history of what we do every other week, pretty well, every other week, is we interview a cannabis expert. These experts could be in the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
It's all right.
I lost my camera vision. Okay, good. These experts could be in the medical field. They could be somebody that's an expert in international commerce or interstate commerce. How are we going to move this stuff around? All of that. So we have about an hour interview program with 6 vets. I'm one of the interviewers. And then we tape it, and it's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook, and all that stuff.
Good.
And again, it's veteran oriented. The subject matter always leans towards veteran issues because that's what we are. We're an action council. Yeah. We've also got a couple of interesting things going. One is internationally. I'll just shorten it up for you. Just trust me. But internationally, in 2000, the international treaty that the United States is obligated to about drug control was changed as far as cannabis was concerned. Basically, the treaty removed it from the prohibited statute and put it in it's no problem. It's different numbers, but I don't want to get confused with anybody. So anyway, what that does in the United States law, it triggers by law that the Attorney General of the United States of America is obligated, I say again, by law, when the treaty changes some sort of schedule process on cannabis or any other drug. Of course, cannabis isn't a drug, it's a plant. But anyway, that's another subject. When it changes to scheduling, the Attorney General must change the scheduling of our own schedule here in the United States. Well, he didn't.
No.
And we waited politely. We, the Veterans Action Council, waited very politely for a year. Hey, we give him some time, right? And then we wrote him a letter, and we said, hey, basically what I just told you all, guys. And of course, we didn't get a reply. But then we got a hold of the White House, and we talked to one of President Biden's advisors on international stuff, because this is an international treaty. And this gentleman had no idea what we were talking about. We work in a rather little narrow, nuanced world, but we know it really well. And so when the White House representative heard our story, and the Attorney General, et cetera, he said, wow, we're going to do something. Now, all I can tell you is that about a week later, President Biden said at a press conference a sentence that we said to this man in the White House about the Attorney General getting off his ass and doing his job. He still hasn't, by the way. The other interesting thing, I think especially your veterans up in Canada or wherever you're here, a veteran here is going to.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Now, if
I'm about an hour. I'm about an hour north of the Trenton Air Force Base, which is one of our largest, if not the largest, here in Canada.
Correct. Yeah, you've got vets all over the place there. So
correct.
This should be interesting for everybody listening to this.
That's right. Exactly.
Granting veterans to use cannabis, that was in 2010. So this is 13 years has gone by where veterans, millions and millions of people, men, women, every age, every conflict, have gone to the Veterans Health Administration in the United States, have said, I use cannabis, and they've been treated and treated well. So we wrote the VHA quite a while ago now, a few months ago, and said, so what happened? You know, what happened? Millions of people have just reported to you they use cannabis for this, for that, for this, for that. What happened? And they wrote back and they said, we can't find anything like that. We don't know what happened. So we didn't quit right then. We did it again a different way within the bureaucratic system. Actually, the system recommended we do it a different way, and maybe we'd have a different outcome. So we've done it that second way. And we also have a little congressional help. Congresswoman Mace from South Carolina, federal, signed on to the letter. I'm the signature, but she signed on with me to this thing. So we have a request out, and we think it's legitimate. You've treated hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of veterans using cannabis. What happened? You know,
why is it still a Schedule 1? You got all these millions of veterans who are on it using cannabis to treat themselves. But yet they say there's no medicinal benefit.
Logical answer to that question. Why is it a Schedule 1? There is no logical answer to that question.
There we go. That was Byrne of the Veterans Action Council, and he is based in the U.S.
I don't think I was in that show. I don't remember him.
No, you might. No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think it was.
But
very interesting.
Exactly. And lots of stuff he talked about. He was a Normal executive at Normal. Founded Patients Out of Time. First medical cannabis credited conference where people could go and get educated about cannabis.
Well, I believe that in this next election cycle, Biden has brought up legalization of cannabis.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. He talked about the list of conditions like in the state of Massachusetts. We had a list here in Canada, but there was one that was on that list that said other, and that's where myself.
We had the B1 and B2 different forms, right? So if you had a
Correct.
B2, and I think a B2 was like it was new, and that came up because there was different. Because the first one was just for like MS, cancer, and end of life. There was like very
Yeah.
limited access when the program first started, right? And
Yeah.
Kristen,
Sure.
like with the Hitzig case, as well as Debbie Stokes Giffen, both suffer from MS, right? So
Yeah.
Wyatt, I believe, and then I think Al Barassa and Robin Barassa were the cancer, but that's where they kind of limited on the first E1 paperwork, right, with the MMA or with the MMAR, and then because there was other people like Michelle Rainey being one, and other people that suffered from colitis and IBS and other afflictions. That's when the B2 came in, and that wasn't I don't think until like the late 90s, even early 2000, or I mean not 2000, like early like 2004, 2003 kind of thing.
Okay. He talked about the roundtable shows or interviews that they do that I mentioned prior to that that air here on CBG Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. If you want to listen to any of those, and they're all available at or on on the CBG TV's Facebook page. It doesn't go out the Pace Radio Network. It goes out on the CBG end of things. And he mentioned about VAC. I call it VAC, Veterans Action Council, being worldwide, international, and it's recognized by the UN as well as the World Health Organization.
You know, that was one thing people always piped about that Canada would never legalize cannabis because of the agreement, and there was never anything said.
Yeah, yeah. So it's good to see what there is a voice up, there. And the last thing I want to mention was that just pick up the phone and call the White House. Like,
oh, I mean, it's like we picking up the phone and wanting to phone and talk to our prime minister, right? Like he's going to
yeah,
if you're really persistent, you can get those people on the phone.
Yeah.
It's just that the United States is just so much bigger than we are. That's it, way bigger.
It is, exactly. Okay, I'm going to move on to our next guest that we had this year. And just so you know, these guests are in no certain order. They're just randomized. Yeah, correct. Just randomized. Our next guest that I've got on the list is Shanna Dunbar.
Oh, I remember.
She was co-founder of Education.
Yep.
That's
before they had that big show out in Toronto.
Well, they just I had Shanna on as part, I believe, of the interviews we did from the Canon Expo judging of the sort of the stuff that was going on in the advocacy, the podcasts and so on and so forth. And I had her on, and we talked about all the work that they're doing and they continue to do today. And they won their category about to do an educational group or something. So they won their category, and she was building a hemp house at the time as well. And I've seen some pictures.
See how that's going.
Pardon me?
We should catch up there and see how that's going.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. To find out what's going on and see how the house is, because I've seen some pictures and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to hear from her to see how that is going, because it's not every day that you hear of somebody building a hemp house.
No.
Unless you're looking for it, right? Everything is just mass produced. They're all built, bang, bang, bang.
Well, the thing is with hempcrete too, you have to pretty much manufacture it yourself. It's like the plaster hoses. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But there,
before we run her clip, I'm gonna run a commercial, and then we'll get back and we'll run her video. All right. Okay. We'll be back shortly. And I don't know, three or 4 minutes. Short little video first. You'll see how it is. Okay.
Announcing CBGTV's Bud Break book. Get your copy now. Detailed strain reviews. Every purchase supports the ongoing efforts of CBGTV. Available from Amazon and at cbgtv.com or scan the QR code.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. I say that I think it's time to bring my guest into the broadcast. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Shanna Dunbar to the Pace Radio Show. Welcome, Shanna. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here and just want to congratulate you on your nomination and all the great work that you're doing in cannabis advocacy. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. And I'd like to congratulate you. And I'm going to get this mixed up. Education.
Education.
Gotta pause.
Yeah.
And everybody there that's involved in all that, in your nomination as well.
Yeah, we're so proud to be nominated as a nonprofit organization that, we've been working together for 3 years, working on standardizing cannabis education and getting it out there and promoting the importance of education throughout our communities. It's not just for patients, it should be for everyone, for kids, for seniors, for especially for people that are working with patients should learn more about cannabis, our practitioners, and we're really hopeful that this nomination will help get us noticed a little bit more, and help get the good word of cannabis education out there. So we're really grateful, and we have such a great team. It's not just one person; we have a whole board of directors, and
Right.
everybody works really hard at working towards our mission.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Takes a team. There's no I in team, and it's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort involved in order to be able to do this. Because it should, as a executive director and nonprofit organization, just to get to that point is a lot of just work and paperwork and all that.
Yeah.
And everybody getting together and never mind trying to figure out a program that you're going to use in order to reach out to the patients.
Yeah, that's it. It's a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes to organize. First of all, getting everyone to agree on, like the name education, and agreeing what our board positions are going to be and what each individual is going to work on and what our educational offering is going to be, and then actually getting in there and creating it. And then you got the whole side of marketing, which you seem to be doing pretty well at with your ads. We're just getting into that. Still looking for some help with marketing. But it's a lot of work for sure. But when you're passionate, it becomes easy work.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's when it's passion driven, it's not work as as you would think of as work, because it's something that you're helping patients. You're helping people. You're educating them, or you're improving their quality of life.
And like you said, most of us come from a place of being patients, right? So we know we live on both sides of the fence. We're not just educating, we know personally what it's like to deal with different medical conditions and how that can impact our lives, and then how cannabis can potentially help improve our lives. So I love the group that I work with. I love where you're coming from as well, the language you used when you were first introducing your show tonight, about being patients and giving a voice to patients and making sure that we're heard and that our needs are being met. Really, really important. And I think that that's part of the beauty of who we are. We're so passionate because we all come from that place of having had to learn about cannabis ourselves and having to self-medicate without guidance, and realizing that, hey, it doesn't have to be like this. We could really be in cannabis education and getting it out there and making it easier for others.
But just before you popped in, Shanna was just starting to talk about her son and getting involved in cannabis. Really, like she was already a consumer of cannabis, but that was all recreational, right, Shanna?
Yeah, I maybe used tiny little bits of knowledge that I might have picked up as a teenager to, sort of tell adults, well, it's medical too. It's not just recreational, but that was just for my own ends. I think I really got into the medical side of things. My son's epilepsy started when he was 3 years old. He had a seizure that lasted over 20 minutes, and I had to resuscitate him 3 times. I was lucky because he was in my bed with me, and my husband was away on a fishing trip, and he started to seize in his sleep at about somewhere around 5:36 a.m., just after I'd gotten up to let the dog out, and I'd crawled back into bed, and then he started to have this grand mal seizure. And I had been a lifeguard as a kid, and so I knew if a seizure doesn't go more than 5 minutes, it's okay. Just let it go, make sure that he's safe, and, keep the phone close by. And then when we hit that 5-minute mark, I woke my daughter up, who was just 5.5 at the time. And I said, okay, honey, go call 911, put the dog in the bathroom. And my in-laws were living next door. So I said, go get Nanny and Bubba. And that's what she did. She was like, such a young kid, and she just like breezed right through it, did what she was told, stayed really nice and calm. My son.
Would that would be like, it sounds like to me that you were very calm about the way.
Yeah, I tend to be a calm person in the face of, anything that's going on. I don't know if it's my nature or if it's lifeguard training or what it was, but I was able to remain calm. And despite, the stress of seeing my son stopping breathing and, convulsing and everything.
How terrifying. Was there anything that led up to that, or was it just random? Like, had he been sick, or?
We thought we were at a party the night before at my neighbor's across the way, and he and his little friend had slept on the couch from 8:30 on. I carried him home. He didn't eat anything unusual. We checked the yard to see if there were I don't know. We looked for any kind of mushroom or something growing, or what could the kid have gotten into.
Right.
Of course, they did tests as well at the hospital. So yeah, it really did seem random. The type of epilepsy, they call it benign epilepsy because most epilepsies are caused by some sort of malformation in the brain or due to injury. But my son's brain is perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. So they don't know what causes it. They just know that it generally responds to the same types of pharmaceuticals. So we got to the hospital, and of course he was completely comatose. He'd been seizing for over 20 minutes, so his little body was absolutely exhausted. And they kept trying to wake him up, and he woke up, and then he woke up actually because the nurse was drawing blood and she broke the needle in his arm. So he had this broken needle with this stream of blood pouring out of his arm. And of course he woke up and the little bottom lip started to tremble. And I looked at him and I said, "Bud, are you okay?" And he did this, with little tears rolling down his face. And he said he was okay. And he said, "You have to get him to talk. He probably has brain damage and he probably can't speak. You have to make him speak." And I looked at her and I said, "Go out of here, get someone who knows what they're doing. And my son is fine." He said, "He's fine. He's fine." Like, I just knew in my heart that he was fine. You trust your motherly instincts.
Yeah.
And no brain damage from that seizure. But of course, we were obviously freaked out, and we did what the doctors told us. Put him on pharmaceuticals, even though I'm not, I'm not against pharmaceuticals, but I'm not someone who really likes to use them myself or use them for my family. We tend to try things as naturally as we can. But we did that because when you almost lose your kids, you do what you're told. You take the options that are available. So we did that for I guess about 4 years, and until I really started to realize, all of the side effects from the pharmaceuticals. Like, his memory was really kaput from this. They put them on benzos, right? Which are really, really highly addictive, and they have all sorts of side effects. So his memory was going, and it was another neurologist that pointed out to me that it was the medication that was doing that. And we found that, he had a little bit of hyperactivity, and I felt like it was changing his personality, it was influencing his.
There we go. Our 10 minutes with Shanna. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. The story of her son.
Yeah, that was pretty intense for sure.
Yeah.
There's so many people that we've interviewed and had on our shows that have had these, similar experiences. So
they had to resuscitate him 3 times. And she talked about the coolness of her daughter as well, which was good. Good to see.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't have wanted to have a needle break in my home. I know when they give me, when I go in for my infusions, it goes in as a needle, but they actually withdraw the needle, and it's just a tube that remains in the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Benzos.
I know that kids, right? And they're kids. You have to realize these are kids. They're not good for adults, nor my kids.
No, exactly. There's a story about Jaden and his dad David, and how Jaden's a 7-year-old and he's addicted on benzos, and his dad's trying to get him off. Yeah.
Right.
So, help set up education, and yeah, she's right. Passion driven. A lot of stuff. Passion driven patients, especially in those early days, and
Right.
getting the information and knowledge out there so everybody can learn. Right.
Right.
That's right. Okay. On to our next one. This one here is Anthony Foster. And let's make sure. Yeah, okay. Yep. Make sure I got it. I got things sort of figured out to try to get it all done on time, right? I'm going, something's not right there. But yeah, this one's Anthony Foster. And we're going to listen to him. He's with the Hamilton Vape. Patient advocate. He talked about
run space.
Oh yeah, his space, his hall there.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I talked about his grandfather, and I believe that's all in this video clip. So here we go. We'll see you on the other side. I'd like to introduce guest for tonight's program. He's a business owner, and he's a patient, and he's helping patients. And we like to say, welcome to the Pace Radio Show, Anthony Foster, the Hamilton Vape. How you doing, Anthony?
Welcome. Well, you mean welcome back? Welcome back. You know, it's been a while.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, we have come across each other over the years, doing advocacy and seeing each other at events. So we got to know each other that way. You know, we don't hang around outside of all this, but we hang around when we go to the events and always have a good conversation, chit chat on the program.
Yeah. And I'm always glad to get on the mic with you. You know that, right? So you're usually walking around with a mic, and so I remember always that. Like, and it was most of the time we were talking about this just a bit ago was the Global Marijuana March. We used to go to the Global Marijuana March at Queen's Park, and oh wow, I love. Hey, if you guys haven't been to the Global Marijuana March, you guys missed out.
Oh, I'll tell you, yeah, eh? It was
unless they're coming back. Are they coming? Are we doing? Are they doing it?
I haven't heard anything for this year. My understanding there was something a little bit last year. It may have to, basically start again from sort of, at least the day is known, the event is known, but it may have to grow again as far as in population. Before it was always a fight for cannabis legalization. Now people might say, well, we've got cannabis legalized. But you and I both know, and many other advocates know, just because cannabis is legalized doesn't mean that you stop advocating. There's always something to be improved on, and made better.
Yeah, 100%. And I know there definitely needs to be improvement in Canada because we are lacking in so many ways. So, I kind of miss the Global Marijuana March days, and I kind of miss the back in the day kind of vibe, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. You got what got you involved in the cannabis end of things?
So I was actually welding, and I was a welder for let's say 10 years. I was working for a company, and I got into medical cannabis, and I got into learning about vaporizers, and then I started selling vaporizers. So we started a website, and Hamilton Vape started as a website, and my whole thing was to once I used to carry products with me on a regular, and like my whole thing was try it before you buy it. Try it before you buy it. I think that even giving that experience with a customer. So we ended up opening up a space in the city of Hamilton, because this is where I'm from, born, raised. I got a lot of roots in here. We were actually, Al, I was telling you about my great grandfather.
Yeah. Well, since you brought that up,
1800s.
Tell Tamara. And
so
how
we have some
deep these roots go.
For sure. So my actually last month we for Black History Month we got celebrated. My family got celebrated for my great grandfather who was the first Black minister in the city of Hamilton. He helped so many people during the Underground Railroad, helping them with employment, with homes, just in general, even just helping people.
What a great legacy.
Yeah, I got, actually, it's crazy. Because I have everything with me. I was gonna show you guys. So that's my grandfather there. That's Robert Foster.
That's awesome.
And I carry that name with me in my name. So my name's Anthony Robert James Foster. So yeah, I'm super proud of this. And then I found out even more. So my family ended up all going to City Hall for the big celebration. And I found out more about my family. We're celebrated also too by Julie Berry. She's a relative of me as well.
Nice.
So our family, and this is 1800s. This is 1856. She did some big things in the city as well. And then I was all over the newspaper. I was on the radio. It was kind of cool for the month, right?
That's amazing. That's a great legacy. Something to be really proud of. That's awesome.
Sure. And it was good too, because I haven't seen my family all together like this for forever. Since I was a little kid. So
nice
together, it was good. It was good.
So you had a vape, a lounge in Hamilton, right?
Yep.
And did they shut you down, or did you voluntarily shut down?
No, so we kind of transitioned to something different, but we're still a consumption space. So I'm actually in the space right now. So so we run our space as a rental space, and then we're just let people know we're cannabis friendly. So instead of doing the lounge, because the thing is about the lounge is you got to have staff, and that's waiting for people to come and hang out in the space. And that thing, honestly, things have changed with COVID and things like that. So we transferred into it in more of an event space. I still bit of my retail space here as well, but mostly it's a space that is creative space, and I have it available for anybody that wants to use it. We've done so much stuff in the space.
So people can host events there. If I lived there, I could have a grow up tournament where I could bring in 25 or 40 people and play on a board game all day long and smoke doobies and eat medicated food. And
we do the puff and paint nights. We do puff and paint nights. We do 420 bingo. The space is massive. It's huge. So, and then on Saturday, I'm doing lounge night. We're actually bringing the lounge vibe back to the space, and we do giant Jenga. I get some foods for some people. We're gonna have special vaporizer demos. So I have my buddies coming down with a company called Vestrato, and they have a vaporizer that is it's pretty wild. And they're gonna do demos and let people try it. And then the company I'm working for is gonna do giveaways. They're gonna hook me up with a bunch of stuff to give away to all the guests. And I'm only charging, and it's regular price, $10. You get a complimentary drink. You can hang out. We're just bringing the old lounge back because
do you have a bar, a liquor license set up kind of thing, or is it just kind of
no liquor? We don't have any alcohol. We don't serve alcohol, and we don't allow alcohol.
Well, no, some places, that's the thing. Even when you get into the point where you want to open a business like that, you couldn't put cannabis and alcohol together because it's against the law to do that, right? That's where I ran into problems with a venue with a cup because we had done it prior to legalization in a bar setting. And then after that, we couldn't do it in the bar because cannabis and alcohol are all under the same umbrella, and that's not, but they can't be together.
And I just run my place as a private event space. So people
Yeah.
And like I have
Now before, so you put it on events there, or you rent it out, to people who want to hold events. When it was originally, like back in the day before the COVID and all that, your lounge itself, was it one where obviously people came in? Did you have an entertainment going on, or different night or anything like that?
So our space was a little bit smaller, but it worked for what we did. We would do movie nights. We had Super Smash Brother tournaments, video game nights, and honestly, we had a crowd of people that would love to come to that. So, and we've now transferred it over to here. So every Sunday we run big tournaments here.
Nice.
Now they have a club. They have a whole club. So
really, that's what it's growing into. A couple guys first getting together, playing some video games at a lounge, and now you've got a club.
Space helped us grow for sure, because it was beautiful. Like the space had retail, a little bit of retail. I did my rosin press services in there because we've been doing that since we opened. I did rosin press services in the beginning, and then we got sponsored by Flash Vape, and they gave us that's a Canadian company out west, and they gave us a rosin press, and we've been using that machine forever. It's amazing. So
nice. It's always nice when you get one of those given to you.
Hey, they knew what we were doing. They knew what we were doing, right? And I helped units, right? They understood what we were up to, right? So I told them, I told my whole business plan, and they freaking loved it. He's like, man, that's amazing.
There you go. There's our interview with Anthony. Yes. I always enjoy talking to him. The consumption space, the things that he does.
Right.
Bingo. He does the bingo. He does the paint night. Talked about Jenga, vape demos, movie and game nights.
And that's the way to build community, right? Mm-hmm. And remember, I was talking to you about an event coming up, and that might possibly be an event place.
Yeah,
I could pass on to my, girlfriend. That's because I think that's one of the issues, that she's in need of a venue. So, because it's right, especially one like that.
Oh yeah, that'd probably be a good spot for that. Yeah. If I think I know what you're talking about, I'm pretty sure we were talking about it before the show. Yeah. It was the connection, Hamilton.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Now, one other thing that we talked about right at the beginning of the show, and he brought it up, so I'm going to bring it up here because I can update our viewers on that. What he was talking about in the GMM, the Global Marijuana March, and wasn't sure what was going to happen, so on and so forth. It was successful in the past, but he hadn't heard anything yet so far. I can tell you, there is a group of advocates that are getting together, that are meeting in order to get the Global Marijuana March 2024 up and running. Get more than just a few people to show up. It's basically to restart it, to bump start it, whatever you want to call it, and get people down there to Queen's Park and discuss things. Still have celebrate the cannabis culture, but also there's the global legalization, and it is the Global Marijuana March. People are still being hung, such as in Singapore, for cannabis offenses, right? And also right here in Canada, there's lots that needs to be fixed up and corrected right here in our own country
Well, I understand the whole fact of like selling to minors, but 14 years for a jail sentence to selling or giving to minors is a little bit harsh, considering it's okay to
cruel,
handle child
cruel.
time than that. So you know what I mean? And there are again parents that put themselves at risk because their child needs cannabis unless they have medical paperwork, which is hard to get from a doctor no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right, so I can assure everybody of that the Toronto Global Marijuana March is being worked on behind the scenes, and watch for promos and stuff right here on the Pace Radio Network. And as we go into the commercial break, we'll see one.
Awesome.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV, broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and in the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. And you're watching the Pace Radio Show year in review for 2023, not 2024. Okay. All right. Basically, we're running some videos here. We got about 10 minutes on each video of some of the guests that we had throughout the year. And we've got 2 more to run. Let's see. So up first, we have Jigs Maracle and Tammy Stanhope. They are the organizers of the Indigenous Cannabis Cup, the ICC. All right, so we'll run that, and we'll talk on the other side. All righty, what do you say? Time to bring in our guests.
Absolutely, they got a lot to tell us.
All right, they sure do. We got 2 ladies here as guests. They are people who are working hard to bring you, our viewers and listeners, in the community, the best cannabis event that they can. We like to welcome Tammy Stanhope and Jig Maracle. Good day, ladies. You have your mics muted. No, you're still muted, Tammy.
No, I'm unmuted. I'm muted. I'm gonna blame the weed, okay? I'm just gonna blame the weed.
You can't blame the weed because the weed helps you. It doesn't make you.
It totally does. 100%. 100%.
Right? So don't blame the weed. I blame myself before I blame the weed.
Yeah. And you know, we do it ourselves. We will mute ourselves sometimes and not realize it and start talking away and think, oh.
I mute myself when my dogs start yapping. When the dogs start yapping, you won't hear me.
Yes. All right, ladies. We're here to talk about some of the hard work that the 2 of you have been working on when it comes to a cannabis event. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you get started. Tell us a little bit about what the event is, what it's called. You know, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that. And tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll dig deeper into it. All right. So I don't know who wants to go first. All right, Jig, you want to go first? You're the family connection from what I understand.
Sure. So it was originally my father's idea to be able to have a cannabis event held on the reserve where we live, because we have different rules than obviously what the government had at the time. But for him, it was a way for people with their own cannabis companies to make connections. So that's what it really started out was you would have all of your vendors from everywhere come and set up, and then like make connections, do business with each other. And like we have a lot of local shops here in Tyndonega. So they would all come and meet people and purchase product for their store, and just to be able to share that. And then another big part was he had like smaller classes that took place over the weekend to be able to, for people who were interested in learning, to go and learn more about either like the planting aspect or like the medical side of it. And just to be able to get people out there who have been, I guess, scared of it or grew up in the time where it wasn't the thing to be doing. So
and there's lots of them out there.
Oh, most definitely. Like even to this
there's
day.
no shortage.
Well, it's been difficult too, because even with our reserve that we have here, a lot of them still don't see cannabis as medicine. They still see it as an addiction, as a gateway into addiction. And that's unfortunate, but you know, it should be treated as medicine.
And that's the thing though, is you can't change everyone's mind all at once. Obviously, there's a lot of people, like we have people who used to come into the store who were like 80, like 70 and 80, and they would come in and they'd be like, oh, I tried this a long time ago, but then it became such a bad thing. You weren't allowed to do it. And now it's like, I'm hurting and I'm in pain every day. And I hear that like, this is one of the most natural ways to help than to take all of those pharmaceuticals and stuff. And And that's like a big thing for us. And that's the side that we've always been on is the medical side, to be able to help those people. And it was even like a thing of, if there was some people who had come in, haven't tried it in so long, it's like, here, take this for free. And then obviously if it works, like, we're going to see you back next time. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
You're a living.
Yeah, exactly. And when you talk to patients and they share their stories, that helps educate people. And
always, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So so your dad, Jamie, wanted to do something, bring the community together, the cannabis community, and put an event on. And obviously it sounds like it's grown since then. This is the sixth year Indigenous Cannabis Cup. Correct.
Yeah. And so over the last 3 years, I want to say, that's when Tammy and I kind of took over. And so now it's something that he's started, and he can just go to and enjoy and not have to worry about planning and doing all of those things when he doesn't have time. So,
okay. Tammy, how did you get started and involved in this event?
So it was back during the first event. So I Instagram.
Yeah, can you move a little? Yeah, your volume dropped down.
That was better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So first year of the Indigenous Cup, I signed up like most of us here in Ontario, just to see, because we didn't have any outlets, there was no events, there was anything taking place like that at that point. So a bunch of us from the area and around, we all signed up to go to this Indigenous Cannabis Cup. And that's pretty much where we formed the major basis of all of our long-term cannabis business relationships. Came from that first event, because I think there was about 50 or 60 vendors. And for all of us at the time, that was absolutely insane to see that many companies in one spot. And it was literally like the most eye-opening, shocking thing that any of us, but if you were part of that, you're most of us are still here. And I think that had a lot to do with it, because we could see the potential of what we should be able to do, just like we could organize ourselves so well. And so basically from that point on, as soon as that event, and it was only a 3-day event, it was 2-day event, but we were there for 3 days. And by the end of the 3rd day, I was like my mind was racing with all of the things that we could do, and by that point, that was it. So I started making connections, just like expo style, because I come from a corporate kind of environment and stuff like that. So, but it was different, but I just applied the same, what I would do in any other environment. And I just, got to know people, made connections with companies and businesses that I thought that would be good, to see what it was about, where it was going. So I joined High Canada about a month after the Indigenous Cup, because I have a writing background and editing and magazine kind of stuff. So it was kind of like just a hand in hand kind of thing. But a lot of my long-term cannabis connections come from that first event. And so by the 2nd year, I had already started asking, like, Jamie and his wife, Melissa, if they needed any help doing anything and coordinating the event, because I brought some skills from, my business life and my day kind of stuff that I could help out. And then basically, one thing led to another, and here we are. Now
Here you are. That's right. I would imagine that first event, you go into it, you have your plan, you do your plan, but you also learned piles of things that you could do, or maybe some things that you shouldn't do, but in order to make that and you probably felt really good for what you had accomplished.
I Well, I don't know. Like, so I've done a lot of event planning in the cannabis space in the last, 8 years that I've really been going hard in it. And I have to say that there's not one event that it's not till it's over that you actually just like, and I think you're always criticizing yourself and like things you could do better. You know what I mean? Because you would see, because I'm also a vendor as well. I'm also a business owner in the community. So I see where things, should be better and how, vendors and small businesses need to be treated better when it comes to these events. They need to be recognized more and appreciated more for what they actually bring. Because without all of these businesses, there would be no events. So we have to, community, nurture each other and those relationships and those business relationships, because we are what makes everybody cool. If it wasn't for each other, none of us would be any freaking buddy. So the way I see it is like the more we work together, the stronger we are as a legacy market. And I believe that we need that. Like we need that to go forward because we are ahead of legal cannabis. We are ahead of a lot of things. Okay, just a lot. So I feel like we're not done fighting for that equal opportunity to be as involved in the world of cannabis, however we choose to be. We should still be allowed that opportunity. We still have the best medication. We still have the best, all of that stuff. We're the ones who are still helping the people who actually freaking need it. So I see the value in, constantly trying to, keep good relationships in all aspects of the Canadian cannabis space. And unfortunately, it's always older people that understand the core, and it's harder to keep the young ones away from, wanting to reap the immediate benefits of what they think comes with cannabis business. And so I feel like, but I mean, I can't complain. We've got a lot of good companies in Ontario. At the Indigenous Cup, we've managed to attract a lot of out of province businesses as well. So New Brunswick, because they're so close to us, like they have a very large presence at the Cup. Quebec has a large presence at the Cup. We have a lot of BC present at the Cup. So I feel pretty confident in different territories. I think we're up to like 7 different reservations at this point that are coming to represent.
Oh, good.
So every year that stretch gets bigger, that reach gets bigger. And I think that's hugely beneficial to keep, because I've said before, if it wasn't for the reservations and if it wasn't for, we would not be in business. So we need to be just as equally giving and working together with those, because that's what keeps us all who we are and doing what we're doing. Unless, of course, you're strictly just medicating family and friends. But those of us who are still trying to maintain business, like anybody else should be allowed to do, those are business relationships that we need to, we need to nourish and fucking be good with and understand, and vice versa, because we're all here to help each other and we're all here to better our businesses and, work together ultimately. And I love the Cup for that reason, because you ask anybody that goes, that's the vibe that you get from this event. And that's what is the most important thing of all the things that we do.
There you go. There's our discussion with Jigs and Tammy there from the ICC.
And you guys went to the Indigenous Cup, didn't you?
Correct. Yeah, we were. I was there as part of CBG TV. We had a booth there all weekend, doing interviews with people. But I'll tell you, it was a hot weekend, and it was hard on our phones.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember because we had we're having this really hot summers, it's cold snaps, up to 2 degrees. Now we got like 1.5 feet of snow being dumped in 24 hours. That's why on my phone we've had 2 accidents in the last hour. I've been on the phone
Oh wow,
the stakeholder thingy. So this thing's been banging the whole time. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now another thing that well, I know what Jigs talked about was about the the starting of the ICC, and her father wanting to help patients and bring people together. And Tammy went on, sort of continued on with that about how important it is for the businesses and the businesses relationships for everybody,
See,
for the
to be
benefit
honest,
of everybody.
the First Nations have it the perfect. You know what I mean? They can do the medical. They've got sovereign land. They can do what their setup is totally different than what the recreational legal market is outside of the regular area, right?
Yeah.
It's just
I know. I know that tomorrow on the psychedelic and cannabis educational news, I seen there that one of the stories that's going to be covered is going to be about the views of one of the indigenous store owners, I believe is what it is, and their view on why they are allowed to do what they're doing without having to go through the provincial government and so on and so forth.
No, and to be honest, they were at the roundtables during the legalization roundtables when I was in Vancouver at the roundtables. The bands were there, right? When they said that they weren't consulted, there maybe not that band in particular, but there were bands at the table. So not all of them were maybe consulted, but there was
Right. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Not everybody would be represented.
Well, you had to be involved and actually ask to be involved. Like, they didn't just pull your name out of a hat. Me and Ross were, we had to ask to be kind of involved.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't like this, we got picked randomly because it didn't happen that way. If you want to be involved, you have to ask, and you have to ask to be included, right? Sometimes. Anyways, their setup is perfect. Like if we could do that all across the country for medical patients, because the limits. I'm hearing I'm hearing that things are changing. So
let's hope so. Well, like I know in Alberta now they can have cannabis at trade shows and at events like festivals and things like that. That's the only spot so far in the country that I know where they're allowed to do that, and we need that spread out more.
Matt Byrne we're out in Cochin had entered his cannabis in their regular market a few years ago. Yeah. So there are markets that are accepting and some that aren't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're on to our last guest that we had this year for this year in review. And this is Alexy Fox. She's founder of Breaking Stigma and Education on Cannabis. And we're also going to talk about another organization that she helped found, and that's the Responsible Consumers of Cannabis. And she comes to us from the U.S. So here we go. Topic, and I think it's time to bring in my guest. So at this time, I'll introduce our guest, a woman who's educating patients, and not just patients, and non-patients, people all about medicinal cannabis. And I'd like to welcome Lex Fox to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Lex. How you doing?
I am well, Al. Thank you.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on the broadcast and coming and agreeing to come and talk to me. As I tell a lot of people, it's just more like a conversation versus a nail it down interview and stuff like that. So
yes, well, and I've watched the show for quite a while now. So that's fun for me to actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good to know that you're a watcher of the program, and now you're an opportunity to be a guest here on the program and tell your story and let people know what you're doing in order to help educate people. And I always believe that, and others here at the Pace Radio Network believe that when people and patients share their stories, it educates others. And it helps them. They say, hey, look at this person. Look what they're doing for their advocacy. And hey, geez, I could probably do the same thing.
Yes, and the lack of education is
big time,
in my opinion, the biggest barrier that we have when it comes to moving forward, whether it's legislatively, whether it's societal, whether it's medically. There is such a gap there. The perceptions are off. The facts that people think they have are off. The studies, the numbers, the statistics that they show are off. It's the lack of education is so much of a bigger problem than we even realize.
Okay, well, before we get into all that, why don't we let's go back to the beginning. I always like to find out from the beginning what people got involved in and why they got involved. And sometimes I even ask questions. I haven't asked this one in a long time. And sometimes I get funny answers. Sometimes I get really serious answers. And some of them are just, it was just like this. And it's sort of off topic, but it is on topic. And can you remember the first time you ever smoked any cannabis?
I do.
And what the experience was like?
I do. Being a teenager in America where it was, illegal everywhere. It was on a gravel road in a car, with some real shady characters, I'm sure. And because that was how you did it. That was the only place that you had to go. And so yeah, I do. And I remember going to eat. We went out to eat afterwards, and I remember thinking, I'm supposed to be hungrier than this. Mm-hmm. And then the second time I smoked, that's when I got the munchies. I didn't have the munchies the first time. Yeah. The second time I definitely did. But it's funny because, thinking back to what my perception was before I had smoked, mm-hmm. and then my perception after, although I'm lucky enough to not have been, literally harmed from some of those misconceptions, that's not the case for everyone.
No, that's right.
So yeah,
I guess I always say that cannabis isn't for everybody, just like cheeseburgers.
It's not. And maybe smoking cannabis isn't for everybody. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are a tincture or a concentrate person. Maybe there are so many different mediums that people will not even explore. I often talk about my parents. They're a big reason that I got into this because they come from a generation where reefer madness was still a thing, and it was in society today it might be looked down upon, but back then it wasn't even spoken about.
That's right. Oh yeah.
And there's an entire generation of people that are going to end up spending the last of their days in pain, mm-hmm. and in less than proper body function than they should, and so on and so forth, and down the line, all because they're not willing to even look at that as an option because of the stigma that's there.
That's right. Exactly. There's so many. I've had it in my own family. Situation like that.
Yes.
Where they wouldn't try it because there was
pot.
always the negative.
Yes.
And
always
negative. I never guarantee anybody that's going to cure them from cancer, but you can pretty well bet that for a lot of people that the quality of life can improve.
Yes. Yes.
And they need to know that.
Right. People need to know that because they don't, because they have been taught to associate cannabis with the negative for so long. If you look at what it does, just for the brain itself with your receptors, and we have endocannabinoids that are naturally in our system, mm-hmm. and in our body, and people don't realize that, like it works the way it does because it is working with your body, not against it. It is working with your body. The only plan and goal it has is for homeostasis. That is it. Mm-hmm. And so that is what it works towards in your body. And and people have been misled.
People have been misled. Exactly. And that's what got me. Like for myself, and you started to talk about your parents.
Yes.
Like myself, I became a patient. I have Crohn's disease, and because of what I experienced, I had to tell everybody. And this is what I've been doing the Pace Radio Show. This is my 10th year now in the Pace Radio Show.
Yay.
And I was doing radio for 5 years, even before then, talking about cannabis. But it's sharing those experiences, helps other people. So where was I going with that? I lost where I was going exactly with that. So I couldn't shut up. I had to tell everybody. And it sounds like your experience. You knew of something and you had to get involved with your parents. Like I don't know whether you yourself, whether you're a patient.
I am not. I am not a patient myself. But my parents were only half of me, following this crazy idea. But my daughter is the other motivation behind it, because I look at her generation, and we always want better for our kids. We always want them to have less of the struggles that we did. Yeah. And let's face it, we all know that an abstinence only program of, just say no to drugs, that doesn't work.
Doesn't have. No.
So I would like to think that maybe we've wisened up a little bit and are at a point to where, my hope for my daughter's generation is that they will know certain things like the first time you smoke pot and you get too high. If you sniff, obviously don't snort it, but sniff black pepper. It blocks your CB2 receptors and your psychoactive effects are gone within 3 to 4 seconds. I remember the first time I got too high. That would have been nice to know.
I've actually, to tell you the truth, I've never heard about the pepper.
Yes.
Man, it's not very often I get too high either, but it has happened. But
right, it's not very often though.
Exactly.
So I think to my daughter and her generation and why not make it easier for them?
Why not educate them? Like I don't know how old your daughter is, but I know like there was DARE in schools. Like you obviously had out in the US, you guys had DARE. And what that did to people, and why not teach the younger people the actual truth, like you're saying?
Yes, teach them the actual truth. What a concept! Because statistically, Nancy Reagan, she had a lot of push behind the DARE program, but it just wasn't in the numbers, and it didn't. It didn't have a slow start. It didn't have an early fizzle out at the end. It just didn't work.
It didn't work. What happened is it proved that drugs are really everywhere, which stands for DARE as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. It just, and I remember thinking back to being a student and being in DARE, and I can't say it was, impactful. I can't say that the first time I smoked pot, I was thinking about 5th grade in the DARE class, but
exactly.
But I would like to think that I learned at least something from it, whether it be a thought pattern or a different way to think, something. But the DARE program actually is kind of where that was the first thing that I really dove into when I started this whole thing. And I took basically the same principles of the DARE program. I took it out of an abstinence only model and I put it into a social and emotional intelligence based model that involves like basic 21st century living skills, which once we're legal everywhere in this country, I mean, it already is, but especially then it's a common household item. People need to know it's the same thing as that there are guns in the house, but they're locked up in the gun safe. That they're dangerous, but you also know that they can protect you.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah. And what happens is when you get unresponsible people, you end up with the statistics of the children and so on and so forth that end up with it. And
you end up
Yeah, it's
and you end up with these new stereotypes and these new stigmas that come about, and there's nobody out there doing control.
I was muted. We talked about that in the ICC interview.
Right?
Yeah. So that was Alexis Fox. She talked about.
Must have been
she's a viewer of the program. So when I asked her to be on the show, she was really happy and look forward to coming on. She talked about the lack of education and the importance of education, as well as her first time experiencing cannabis. We had a chuckle over that.
Perspective with her being American, right? Because as much as we like to think that we're a lot alike, we're not, right? And here's the thing: in Canada, we've got different cultures in different pockets of our country. Even Canadians are not all the same. We have different ideologies and different, foods and different things all across this country. Same with the States, and their population is 3 times what ours is. So it's good to get different perspective from people from different areas of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's talking with people. If we can get international guests on, then that helps with that. That's for sure.
Well, that would be interesting. And we have had people that, but let's face it, they're living in Jamaica, but they're still American or Canadian. It's really hard to reach out. Like we had Murray on my show.
Well, we had Melissa Bloomfield on from Jamaica. I ran the video last week of our interview that we had with her and how she grew up in Jamaica, and she was not raised around the cannabis at all whatsoever. She says most people in Jamaica don't smoke cannabis.
I know. I remember that. I remember that interview. I do remember.
Yeah.
And I've had Murray on from Australia, right? And I've had Carolyn. Yeah. So I've had Australians on. It's hard with the time difference too, which is a thing, right? Even getting
2 a.m. or something.
Nova Scotia on is hard because the time is different. So
yeah. All righty. Anything you want to throw out there? Anything you got to say before I sign us off? That way, the next show, the newbie and the doobie.
Cannabis and coffee Monday at noon. I'm going to kick off this next Monday coming up. Other than that, not much.
Noon Eastern.
Noon Mountain Time, so 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
2 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, just so I know. All righty.
11. You said 11 my time or noon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could do it earlier, but then I got to get up.
Just so I know, confirm that it was you were talking Mountain Time, and as well as for viewers,
Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, correct. Because a lot of times we're talking Eastern Time zone, so if you throw a noon in there, not everybody understands you're saying Mountain Time. I can see that. It's happened before where we've arranged guests and we tell them Eastern Time, but they're on the West Coast and they'll still think, 8 o'clock their time.
8 o'clock is their, and that's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock your time.
Yeah, it is 11 o'clock.
They're 3 hours behind, right? So
yeah, exactly. All right. Other than that, time for us to go. You can find us on Twitter, as well as on Facebook. We're on YouTube, and our website, paceradio.net, and we're on Instagram as well. Other than that, reminder: debut Newbie and the Doobie on CBG TV. That happens in 20 minutes. Thanks to Limestone City, Hydroponics.ca, Legacy420.com, and the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Also, a big thank you to all our guests that we had out throughout the year. Also, a new sponsor that kicked in for the Pace Radio Network this year during 2023, and that was Limestone City Hydroponics. Make sure you get out and see Pierre and Margaret. I know that I got to get out and see them shortly. Need some supplies.
Right.
And I could have it delivered, but they will deliver here, all the way from Kingston to here. Like an hour and a half east of them. They will deliver here, but it's nice to get in and just to see them. Talk.
For a visit, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Other than that, thanks to our viewers for tuning in and watching the program. We'll see you all next week, and good night.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.